Mick, Al-Quds International Day, it has become a very important event. What does it represent to you as a human being, as pro-justice?
That we're in a time of genocide when the Israelis have shown they're perfectly capable of slaughtering Palestinians methodically, week by week, over a couple of months. Palestinians are in fantastic danger under a genocidal regime. And therefore, when people come together to show support for the Palestinians and opposition to the genocidal regime in Tel Aviv, it's very important because it gives us confidence. We know that we're not alone. And the other thing is, we're meeting here the day after the Argentine national football team cancelled their game in Jerusalem yesterday. The Israelis were really worried about that. Now, I salute the Palestinian resistance, but the actions of the Argentine football team and the Argentine people in boycotting and isolating Israel are as effective as that resistance. It's a part of that resistance. We cannot be in the trenches in Gaza with the Palestinian resistance, but we can play a role around the world to boycott and isolate Israel. And the Argentine example is a fantastic example of the impact this has on Palestinians in boosting the morale and on Israelis in showing them that they cannot continue along this path any longer.
So events like this, does it say big no to Trump's declaration, Jerusalem declaration?
It's opposition. And the fact is, all around the world, and certainly in Britain, Israel can rely on the support of our elites, of the people who rule the country. But when it comes to popular opinion, every measure of that popular opinion shows that Israel is distrusted and even despised by large percentages of the population. Support for Israel among the general population, despite these people wandering past, some of whom are hardcore fascists, support for Israel among the general population is vanishingly small. And that's because people can see the murder, they can see the killing of medical workers, they can see the killing of people with no legs who are supposed to be a security threat, they can see the murder of the journalist Yasser Mortaha a few weeks ago. So you cannot spin this in favour of Israel. And the centre ground that was perhaps a little bit quiet in the past is beginning to see that those people like us, like all the people here campaigning in support of Palestine, are correct, and those guys over there are absolutely despicable.
So Palestinians have been killed, as Israel says, it has the right to defend itself. There were shy international condemnation. Are you satisfied with that reaction on part of the international world body?
Of course not, because Israel has been condemned by almost every government for the last 70 years. Israel's admission to the United Nations in 1948, even though it was a bad decision, Israel's admission was conditional upon the refugees' right to return being recognised and the refugees who were driven out being allowed to return in the shortest practicable time. Ever since then, Israel has violated basic human rights norms that are endorsed by almost every government in the world formally, and the end result has been criticism but no practical action. The Argentine football team, the Argentine Football Federation, shows us the kind of action that's needed to boycott and isolate the state of Israel, just as we did with apartheid South Africa.
And finally, some say why you are here outside the Saudi embassy. What does it represent?
Well, the Saudi embassy and the Emirates and Israel are playing footsie under the table. They may formally not have warm relations, but they are united. They're united together, and Saudi Arabia is a partner with Israel in the region. The Israelis are prepared to do the dispossession and the killing. The Saudis are perfectly ready to throw the Palestinians under the bus. And so this collusion, if the Arab regimes did not cooperate with Israel, it could not continue in the way it does at the moment, even with America's billions.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. How are you? Hi, hello there. You okay? Hello, back again.
Maybe now.
I'm on here. Scottish Palestine Solidarity Campaign. Okay, so what is your assessment of the developments one, the Israelis think they do have a green light from Donald Trump to escalate their crimes.
Articles, questions being asked in Parliament, we keep getting the same stupid answer. It's the political route, it's not the military route. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2012, the Hezbollah Deputy General Secretary, Sheikh Naim wrote, "We do not have a military wing and a political wing. We don't have Hezbollah on the one hand."
Hello, if you just tuned in, this is live coverage from London. Hundreds and maybe thousands of pro-Palestine protesters are gathering here to mark the International Day of Al-Quds, which normally takes place in the last week or last Friday in the holy month of Ramadan. Big crowd, heavy security presence to make sure the pro-Israel supporters do not cause any attention to these participants in this march. The march will start moving towards the center of the city shortly. It's a huge, it's a big event. You can see security, planes, helicopters are monitoring the event. السلام عليكم، مرحبا. هذا لقاء مباشر من مظاهرة يوم القدس العالمي الذي ينظم في لندن في الأسبوع الأخير من رمضان. هناك مشكلة بين الصهيوني وبين هذا الرجل المتدين اليهودي. إذن المئات، بل لا نستطيع احصاء العدد، لكن مظاهرة كبيرة نقوم بتغطيتها لتقرير صحفي. هناك مشاركة قوية من الداعمين للقضية الفلسطينية ومن الفلسطينيين وبعض العرب المقيمين في لندن للمشاركة في يوم القدس العالمي. هناك العديد من الشعارات التي ترفع الآن واليافطات المؤيدة للقضية الفلسطينية والمنددة للاحتلال الإسرائيلي. ستكون هناك كلمات لبعض المتحدثين حول أهمية هذا اليوم وحول ما يجري في مدينة القدس المحتلة التي سبقها إعلان ترامب، وما يجري في الأراضي الفلسطينية بشكل عام في غزة وفي الضفة الغربية. كما ترون العلم
Palestine! 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 Palestine!